everyone, welcome back to the Thornton 100 Motorcycles YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a step back in time to have a look at the WFB2 2 years on. Now this is the world's fastest bobber, second version that we did. We're going to be talking about what makes this bike just so special and how we managed to achieve 300 horsepower at the rear wheel with all of the bespoke engineering that we did for this bike. So let's get into it. So one of the first bits we engineered on this bike was the completely bespoke supercharger system. Now this runs a custom Roadtrex C30 supercharger that Roadtrex sent over to us, and it runs a blacked out anodized gearbox with a laser etching on top with the Thornton 100 and the Roadtrex logos. And in the back of that as well, we're running a completely prototype billet impeller that flows another 15% compared to a standard impeller on this bike, which allows us to flow lots more air out of the supercharger manifold. Now, before we get onto the intercooler and where that air goes, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this engine case. So what we essentially did was pulled off this side of the engine, scanned out all of the flywheel and the crankshaft data as well, and that allowed us to create the bottom pulley and then all of the billet housing that holds onto the supercharger and then runs all the belt and the tensioner around the back. This whole thing is hollow as well, so we've got 1.5 litres of traction fluid in there, which allows the supercharger to run nice and cool, and also allows us to make sure that all of the roller bearings inside are gripping and not slipping, because these centrifugal superchargers run on roller bearings and not gears, which is why these run silently and they don't whine, and it allows us to spin this one up to 148,000 RPM when we're at our max RPM on the engine. So we've got the custom belt guard and also custom bottom pulley as well, which is obviously spinning up. Supercharger here comes out of a custom manifold, and then that is forced into our air-to-air intercooler as well. So we have CNC'd end tanks that we machined up, and then we got welded on, and that's held on with the Wiggins clamps and connectors as well, which are nice and quick release, although they are an absolute nightmare to work with, to be honest with you. But they're very expensive as well, but they do look cool and they're proper motorsport as well. So obviously same thing this side, and then we're coming through a handmade charge pipe. So I built this one myself from scratch, and then we've got the 2022 Goodwood Festival of Speed with my number on there as well. So insert clip here.
Pop that front wheel up, it's got to be fun. Some bikes are here for the show as well, just burning out as they come up the hill as the sun now shining properly at Goodwood Festival of Speed. Let's hope we can have this for the rest of the week.
That was a great time as well. We had a great time. We did a couple burnouts as well, which kind of led us on to thinking we needed to do a drift bike, which led us on to the RR, the 1200 on the year after. So all of that boosted air, it's about 14 PSI, it's only about a bar or so, heads down here into this plenum at the bottom, and that is at one CNC plenum, and that's held together with structural adhesive as well. So we glued this all together instead of welding it, and then we got this nice little embossed logo here as well. So all of that air then gets pushed out and separated and split, so we have a charge pipe either side. Now on this bike we ended up with 4 injectors, or 6 injectors if you count the nitrous oxide injectors as well. So we had our small injectors at the top here, which run on the custom flow through fuel rail. Come around here, and then they run all of the bottom end, so anything up to sort of 30% throttle we're running on these injectors, and then anything above that we're firing both the injectors, so we inject the fuel back here as well. So we've got atomized air coming through here into the Bosch throttle bodies as well, and then we add extra fuel here, and then we can also add injection on the nitrous oxide side of things here as well, which brings me on to the nitrous oxide system. So this is just well, what would be a dry shot system, but we can actually add extra fuel as well. So it's kind of a hybrid. So we've got the bottle heaters here as well, which is just on a feedback loop. So we've got the bottle pressure on a digital gauge on the inside there, and what we can do is gauge the temperature of the bottle via the pressure, I suppose, and we can turn this on and off as we need to be as well, and that's all done in the dash. So this runs a Life Racing FA-E8 ECU, which is incredibly intelligent and allows us to control lots of parameters on the bike as well. So that's how all of the fuel system works. That's running a standard fuel pump in there with no regulator, and then we're running a Bosch FP604 fuel pump as well as a secondary fuel pump, just to have this as a complete flow through system and make sure you've got lots of fuel pressure and make sure you've got lots of fuel flowing through as well. So once that is boosted into the engine, we've got a completely custom CNC ported head and custom valves with a custom camshaft that we have made, along with the pistons as well that live inside here as well. Now, if you followed the project from the start, the issues that we had with this bike, it did actually explode. Insert clip here. And that was because we trusted another company, unfortunately, to build us some rods, and they were absolutely dog shit. So what we did in the end was we went back to the drawing board. Obviously no aftermarket support exists for these engines, so we created our own con rods. We machined them out of tool steel, and then we went and saw Wobbly Steve at Vibration Free, and we had the engine completely balanced with our new rods and also the pistons that we had made at JE. Now, I think I've got one of them covered, so let me go and have a little look and see if we can show you what we did.
Yeah, Jody's showing everyone all these bits like so blasé, and I just remember the pain of building it and redoing it and redoing it. Yeah. Countless prototypes.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, thing's an animal. It was so worth it.
To find a couple of little relics here. So here is the piston, unfortunately, was damaged in our engine explosion. What the crazy thing about this explosion was, it actually didn't damage the head. So the piston literally planted itself at the bottom of the head, and everything was perfectly straight. I don't know what happened, but everything got stuck in and caught up in the cylinder there, and didn't get damaged. But that's a pretty cool thing to have. But this is essentially the piston that we designed. So you see we've got Thorn 100 logo there. We've got the low friction Xylane coating on the side there as well. It's a fully forged item from JE, custom built just for this project. So a very cool bit of kit. So the engine as well also had a couple of other little bits in it, such as we built a centrifugal bob weight clutch in it, which I'm pretty sure I have a 3D printed prototype of. So let me go and grab that and show you that. So here we go, some proper relics here. So digging out everything. So essentially on the clutches here, factory bikes have 3 springs, and they've also got compensator ramps as well. So essentially when you accelerate, this squishes up. But the problem is when we're making so much power as well with a 270-degree engine that's really trying to kick through, and it has a crazy amount of torque, this was not up to the job. So we have a few iterations here. I think this was number 1. It was quite interesting actually with this one. We actually had some issues with friction plate lubrication. We actually didn't have enough oil on our friction plates, did we? So that was quite an interesting one. So we added all of these holes, and then we actually added some more holes around here to lubricate. And then as you can see, we went from 3 springs to 6. And then that was a good design. And then we actually decided to abandon that though. And we ended up going with a centrifugal bob weight design. So I literally designed this on my iPad, which is actually like insane when I think about it. But basically what we've got is the similar sort of setup that we want to do. So what we want to do is when we release our clutch from a handlebar, we want all this to squish up as tight as possible, and we want it to grip those friction plates and those steels to make sure that we're not going to slip. So the way that we can add a mechanical advantage to this is by using something like this, which is a centrifugal bob weight. Now, what this means is that as this spins sort of around the engine like that, what's going to happen is this bob weight is going to push out like that. But as you can see under here, there's actually another tang pushing in on the clutch plate. So as this spins faster and faster, this gets forced out sideways. As this is getting forced out this way, we're actually squishing the clutch plate together harder as well. So it was quite an interesting thing. So when you actually rev the engine with the clutch in, it wanted to force your hand out. So yeah, quite an interesting thing. If that's a bad explanation about how bob weight clutches work, then you should just Google bob weight clutches. But we designed that, and that was really close as well, really tight, because we had push rods and swivel levers and things to avoid in there. So making that really compact was quite a challenge, but we got there in the end. So lots of other stuff went down in the gearbox as well, so we had everything micro finished to make sure that it's as strong as it could possibly be. I'm not going to explain that, so Google super finishing on engine internals and you'll see what that's all about. So everything was balanced as well, making sure that everything runs super smooth. And insert a video here of this engine running on a bench with a cup of tea on it as well to see how smooth that engine is. Let that settle back down. As you can see, we have the engine spinning here, our cup of tea. So this bike actually, believe it or not, runs a standard radiator on it. There's not a whole lot of room for anything else. We had such a massive air-to-air intercooler. Also, once we're injecting NOS, and also running this on a bioethanol flex fuel, it runs quite cool anyway. So when I say bioethanol, we're running on a cellulosic ethanol, which is made from biomass. When it degrades, we can pull ethanol out of that, and what we can do is pour that into our tank. So this will have essentially V-power in it or something along those lines. I actually think we ran it on race fuel a couple of times, which was an interesting one. So we've got an ethanol content sensor in there as well, and we tie that in using the NOx sensor and the feedback from the wideband lambdas, and also the exhaust gas temperature sensors, to make sure that we've got the most efficient burn on that, and making sure that we're running it as efficiently as possible in regards to timing, making sure that we don't pre-detonate our engine. But that was quite an interesting thing as well, because we could load bioethanol into the tank, and it would actually make the bike greener for emissions and make it run better as well. So there was loads of stuff that went into this bike's electronic system as well. So on the dash here, we turn it on, you see Thornton 100. We had the self-starting for this as well, and this was when we saw our first version of Thornton 100 artificial intelligence as well. So we also had this big red button here, which was flame mode as well. We do have some very quiet neighbours here, but insert a video here of me doing flame mode, because this thing is just absolutely insane. So this bike's ECU allows it to completely look after itself. This completely custom dash as well, with a couple of different screens. So here you can see we've got warm-up mode, nitrous mode, dyno mode. So insert video here of this bike dynoing itself, so we didn't have to sit on it when we were doing our big power runs. So with this bike as well, we put in things like anti-lag. It's not real anti-lag because it's not a turbo bike, but it was a ignition limiter as well, which allowed us to shoot loads of flames and get loads of attention, as well as launch control as well, which put this bike under a lot of strain, but it absolutely handled it like a beast as well. So in terms of chassis and handling, it's a standard Triumph bobber chassis. There's loads of titanium completely throughout, and then we've got the carbon fiber BST wheels, which does help reducing that unsprung mass, and also reducing that rotational inertia to make sure that we can accelerate as fast as possible with this bike. We're also running a Dunlop Drag Max tyre with the Thornton 100 tyre decals, big Brembo brakes, front and rear, and we're also running a modified version of a Thruxton RS front end there as well. So loads of lightweight components on it, big Brembo RCS master cylinders, clutch perches, and with the paint, it came to designing it in-house. We had the boys down at Image Design Custom paint this up for us. This whole thing is completely paint, front to back, no decals involved. And then we had the custom gripper seat as well, which is like a motocross vinyl gripper as well. So there's way more stuff on this bike that we could go through, but I just wanted to give you a quick run through today and also insert some cool clips of what this bike is, how long it took to develop. I mean, in terms of timescales, I mean, it was like a year and a bit, wasn't it? Like, it's actually took quite a while because we kept building it, breaking it, building it, breaking it. So it was definitely a journey. And then the bike actually got finished up with us. By the time we started the RR journey, we actually sold the bike, and it's actually a private collection now. So it does actually get used every now and then. So it's back with us for a service, and then we're going to send it back to the owner, and hopefully you might see it actually out at a local bike near you. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and make sure you click that subscribe button for more cool custom bike content, and we'll catch you in the next one.
happy?
No.